Quebec's Education Minister Bernard Drinville wants to implement public school rankings in the hopes of increasing student success. A new dashboard, which has been made public, shows live readings of schools and their rankings amongst others. New dashboard is inspired by one set up in the healthcare sector. It provides access in just a few clicks to 9 key indicators of the school network: dropout rate, number of students. And you know what? A little mea culpa on my end here. Yesterday, we talked about this on the Big Five, and I made a joke. I said, well, wouldn't it be great if they could also tell us the air quality in classrooms? Ladies and gentlemen, air quality in classrooms, one of the metrics that will actually be on the dashboard. So that's pretty interesting. Let's find out the take of one of our favorite teachers around here. Catherine Hogan is a high school teacher at Westwood Senior High in Hudson. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Elias. How are you?
I'm good. So what do you think about this? I'm someone that thinks transparency, data, usually a good thing. What do you say?
Yeah, usually a good thing. I think, however, I definitely have some reservations about the dashboard. I think that absolutely things like air quality, absolutely. These are things that should be made transparent, available. Parents should be able to access these things. And I think these are good indicators when parents are looking at choosing a school. But I definitely have some reservations about some of the other aspects of Drinville's plan going forward.
What are those reservations?
Yeah, so one of my biggest reservations is he's looking at, of course, helping teachers. It means hearing us. I think he needs to be using teachers a little bit more in this process, because I think that ranking schools and wanting to increase graduation rate is excellent, but eliminating some of the specialized programs at schools in order to level the playing field so that schools can be compared side by side, I don't think is the right way to go, because I think that right now we're looking at a high increase in apathy in students. And some of these specialized programs, these things like sport études, are things that are keeping students in school, that are pulling kids into schools. And certainly, yes, I'm at a school where we do lose some athletes every year to the specialized sport études programs, but these are kids who are pursuing their education, they're staying in school, they're graduating. This isn't necessarily, I don't think, the avenue where we need to target. What we do need to target is more tangible things like fewer students in each class, because that's what's really going to impact the graduation rate.
Well, of course, you went through a prolonged negotiation with the government on salaries and working conditions. So I don't know how much more movement will come now with those deals being concluded. But I do want to touch on this, right? Because I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to bring it up. The ending of selection criteria for public schools.
Yes.
And there really are two schools of thought here. Pardon the pun. And one is you want everything to be fair and even, and it's not fair for some schools. They get to pick and choose their students. Of course, they'll end up higher on rankings if you're picking and choosing your students, right?
Yeah.
But other people would say, well, no, this is actually a good thing if you've got certain schools with these programs, because then you create a higher place of learning for students that may be special in different domains and different fields, right?
Yes. And I think that is the key right there, Elias. Mm-hmm. I think leveling the playing field is a question of public versus private education, not education within the public sector that directs students into specialized programs.
So are you saying you're let's say they got rid of that. Let's say we get rid of selection criteria at certain schools. Mm-hmm. Do you think that would lead parents to say, oh, I can't get a sort of specialized experience in the public system, I'm going private?
I think it might, yes. And I think that that's another added problem for us, because I think if we're looking at transparency, I think we have to look at the fact that in some private schools, because they're allowed to select their students and base that on academics, their academic rate and higher graduation rate and higher placement on provincial exams shows right away. I think it also is an indicator because they don't have to necessarily allow every student to write the provincial exams. And that is something that we know happens, is that students who are in jeopardy of failing provincial exams at some of the private institutions, they're not permitted to write the exams because then their school ranking will then go down. Mm-hmm. Where public schools, we don't have this. We are a public institution. All of our students write our provincial exams, and we do as best as we can. And in the public sector, sector, we are going to have schools that are disadvantaged because, of course, where they are and our clientele. And that's sort of the good thing, I think, about education, in that we can then construct our own schools to help our students individually within our communities.
We're with Catherine Hogan, high school teacher at Westwood Senior High in Hudson. So, Catherine, right now the dashboard is just an overall view of the entire system. Yes. But where the education minister might want to go, he's very open to it, is, the rankings. You're able to look at all schools. And I wonder, could you see a benefit? Let's say for Lester B. Pearson schools, right? Sure. In your board, could you see a benefit if there is a ranking and maybe that creates competition, and like principals at the various schools say, oh man, we need to beat them. We need to get better. If this was public information, could you see maybe, it providing an impetus for schools to get better on their own?
Well, of course, we do have the rankings that are published yearly. And so we do see those. We take them with a grain of salt, certainly, of course, because we are all in different areas, and every school, even within our school board, is very different. So those are the things that we do have access to already, and we do look at them. But when you create competition within a specific school board, then you automatically create kind of a disadvantage that happens to schools that are perhaps a bit more rural, or schools that are, in a more climat défavorisé, right? We have that situation. And I think it continues to create schools that are sort of seen as the better schools and schools that are seen as the weaker schools when they aren't necessarily so. Because I've seen some of the best teachers at some of the schools where maybe the graduation rate isn't as high.
Now, we know that on the Anglo side, right, on the English school system, 1/3 of English parents I think it varies by school board, but about 1/3 of English parents send their children to the French system. Do you think if we had data, because I know the English school boards love to crow about their graduation rates and how much better they are. Do you think that if we had more public data, one of the reasons maybe the government wouldn't want to show this data is because if they showed it, it would show an English system which excels compared to its French counterparts?
I think so, absolutely. And I'm certainly proud to work in a system where, I do work for an English school board, but I think we have an outstanding French program within our school board. And I think that it shows in our success rates, in our graduation rates. And yes, I think it is something that we should be proud of in the English sector, that we do have a comparative level of French happening in our English schools. And that is something that should show in the rankings.
Catherine, we're going to leave it there on the program. I always thank you for coming on the show. Always appreciate your insight. Any last thoughts? Did we not cover something that you wanted to touch on this?
No, I'm interested to see, to be honest, Elias, where they go with the specialized programs. That's one thing that I'm kind of interested in seeing, because, as I said, I'd really like to address more student apathy at this point. And so taking away some of these specialized programs, as I said, I do not think that this is the way we want to go, because, as I said, these programs pull in some of these kids and allow them access to, better education and allow them success in their lives. And I think it's important for us to support some of those specialized programs for them.
Catherine, take care. We'll talk real soon.
Okay.
That's Catherine Hogan from Westwood Senior High in Hudson.